Hello, this is Lee from Monstrosity, and you're watching That Metal Interview. Keep it brutal.
That Metal Interview.
Cool. So, thanks for coming back on the show. I think last time we did audio only, but thanks for making time, Lee.
Cool, man. Appreciate it. Where you at?
I'm in Texas, a couple hours from San Antonio.
Gotcha.
So where are you at? If you want to share.
Tampa. Tampa, Florida. Yeah.
The birthplace of metal, for sure, right? Death metal.
Exactly. About 10 minutes from the airport.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been here since 93. Same house.
Nice. What do you think is in Tampa, Lee? I mean, there's so many death metal bands, and not only death metal bands, but name famous death metal bands.
Right.
You can go on naming a bunch of bands besides Monstrosity.
I think Morrisound is one of the big ingredients. You know, the fact that we had a studio that was world class, that definitely helped. There was bands probably that wouldn't have got noticed were able to get noticed.
Man,
That definitely helps.
I mean, if somebody, whoever lives there, you can run into Glenn Benton or John Tardy at a corner store, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's happened.
There's so many musicians out there. I'm a huge death metal fan, so I'd be in heaven if I lived there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lee, for coming on the show once more. And the Colossal Rage. Music video, I have no words. It's just metal, melt your face. How do you guys come up with this music? Make sure it's metal, like good metal, not a bunch of crap. You guys come up with awesome stuff.
Yeah, we work hard at it, you know, put a lot of time and effort. This particular, let's say that particular song was probably around 2020 when I came up with that one, kind of when COVID first hit. I had written 4 songs for the album back during the mixing sessions for the last album. But then I kind of finished it up when COVID hit, and everybody was kind of locked inside. But yeah, I just pretty much come up with a drum skeleton and kind of the main riffs, and then I send that off to my guitar player Matt Barnes, and he, you know, puts his stuff to it and kind of makes it better. He's a more technical guitar player than I am, so he can kind of take it up to the next level and make everything, you know, keeping my same original idea but make it even better. So he's very good at that, and I'm fortunate to have him. So
Nice.
we're a good team. We work well together. You know, I can send him something at like 6 o'clock at night, and by 7 in the morning, I've got something back in my email waiting on me.
Wow.
And that's, you know, he works in the morning, so usually I'm a late night guy. I'll work all night, you know, but if I get him something by 3 in the morning, usually by 7 o'clock in the morning, I'll have something back waiting on me.
By something back and sending things around, you mean riffs, right? Or not lyrics?
Well, yeah, I write the lyrics, so they don't really work, you know, nobody else really handles the lyrics. But as far as music, you know, I'll have, you know, I have my riffs, and I'm a good guitar player, but he's a great guitar player, so he
Right.
kind of he takes what I write and they make it better, you know, so.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know you're a talent, Lee. You're a drummer, guitar player, lyricist.
Do a little bit of everything, right?
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So when you write a riff, do you have that drum beat in the back of your mind, or does it just come along when you sit behind the set?
Certain songs are written different ways. Like that's Colossal Rage, for example. That was guitar first, whereas the first 4 songs that I was telling you about, Banished, Atrophied, The Thorns, and Dark Aura, those first 4 songs, those were drum skeletons I had first. So I came up with the drums, and then I took that and then later on added the guitar riffs to it later. I think, even when I write the guitars first, I think in my head, though, I have an idea for what the drums are going to be.
Yeah.
So maybe not consciously, but definitely subconsciously, in my head, I kind of have an idea where I'm going to go. And, I change, I experiment with it. I'll basically like set a click track, and then I'll just record guitar riffs I'll do like 20 minutes worth of just writing riffs. And basically once I get the riff twice in a good form, then I'll move on to a next riff, So then I'll have like 20 minutes of just riff, new riff, new riff, new riff, new riff, for like 20 minutes worth. And then I'll go back and I'll cut those out. Okay, here's a good version of that riff. Here's a good version of that riff.
Oh, wow.
Here's a good version of that. And then sometimes they don't work together, and I'll take, maybe I'll have 2 good riffs that'll kind of lead me to when, I'll start to click again and start over and do another 20 minutes. But then I'll kind of focus on those parts and try to make other parts that are going to go with those. So I'll kind of fine tune it as I go and kind of slowly shape it into something.
Wow, that's a cool formula.
Yeah.
Have you, of course, nobody's perfect. Have you ever come up with a riff, unintentionally, of course, because you are Monstrosity? Have you ever come up with a riff that you're like, damn, this is not a good riff. It sounds like Poison or Motley Crue. Let me scratch that off. That kind of sucks.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So there's that formula. Huh? Wow.
Hopefully not Motley Crue, but
some Kickstart My Heart kind of riff. Or something.
Yeah, no. There'll be riffs that are like, but sometimes I write music like that, so it's just that'll go into that folder, I'll save that music for another project, or I'll just put it in the can for, maybe it'll get used and maybe it won't. I did a project with Midnight from Crimson Glory back in 2007 to 2009 before he passed away, and I did that a lot. There was some ideas that I had kind of stored that really didn't fit Monstrosity, where I was able to pull them out and, and maybe use them. And I work with another guy, a friend of mine. He's a singer, and same thing with that, where it's like, it doesn't really fit Monstrosity, but it works for him, So I got different ideas, I try not to write crap, but, sometimes it happens, for sure.
Yeah. Nobody's perfect, huh?
Right. And that's the thing. Sometimes, I'll write something and then I'll go back and just make it better, and so like, even though maybe at first it wasn't that great, but then by the time I keep working on it, it gets better and better, and hopefully it's something that can be used.
Do you rehearse a lot, the drums especially, because that's what's more physical?
Yeah, I try to play every day, at least for like a half an hour to an hour a day at least. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Just, I try, life gets in the way. My parents are getting older, so I go down and hang out with them. And, if they need me to move stuff around or help, I'll hang out with them. I want to visit with them. So on those days, I don't get to practice, but maybe I'll do like some hand exercises just, on a pad or whatever. But as far as when I'm home and here and I'm working like pretty much from like 8 o'clock at night to 10 o'clock at night, I have, scheduled. I'm pretty consistent as far as, definitely from 9 to 10 at the very least I get in here. But, and I'll play like, sometimes I won't even play death metal. I'll play like cover songs, I got a little machine here and I'll have songs programmed into my machine, and I can, like doing some Rush or doing some Yes or,
yeah, there you go.
Some, Ozzy, some like old Sabbath. I do Fairies Wear Boots. I like doing that one a lot.
Nice.
Blah, blah, blah. That's kind of my thing. And then I have the set programmed into this box too. So like, sometimes I'll just run the set and
Yeah,
you
to
know,
prepare for the tours.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you already answered this question. You kind of answered it. The first song, the Colossal Rage, you said it's an old riff from the 2020, 2021, give or take.
Yeah.
My question was, do you guys start writing on your own, or do you wait for Metal Blade to give you the green light? But you kind of answered that with that song, huh?
No, we don't wait for anybody. We just do, um, kind of in the past, usually we tour first and kind of get that out of the way. And then once we've got the touring out of the way, then we focus on writing the album. This album, I did try to start early, but it didn't work necessarily. But like right now, we've probably got two and a half songs. They need work still for sure, and then I've got probably 50 ideas. I got like when I practice, a lot of times I'll just hit record. I got mics on my drums, and I got my machine over there. I'll just hit record, and then
Really?
yeah. So
Just like that?
I try to record everything that I play. Anytime I play,
Wow.
anytime the band play, I record every rehearsal of the band. And the reason I do that, not really to be released or anything, but sometimes somebody will mess up or there'll be something, and was that me or was that you? We didn't
Yeah.
know. We can go back and listen to it. Oh, okay, that was you. You only did it 3 times instead of 4, or vice versa, or whoever it was, or whatever.
Wow.
So that it's a good habit to. Plus, it's good to go back and listen to what you did, and I've got terabytes of hard drive filled with rehearsals.
Really?
Yeah, and then same with Terrorizer. When I was playing with Pete Sandoval, I'd try to record every rehearsal, and
Wow.
yeah, so I got terabytes of Terrorizer rehearsals too.
Fans would kill to hear some of those. You got a treasure there with the monstrosity
Yeah,
stuff and terrorizer.
yeah, but anyway, like when I record, like when it's just me here alone, I'll just play, record, and I'll create a skeleton, and then sometimes I won't do anything with it. Like I said, I've got about 50 ideas. So, like on a rainy day, sometime when I'm sick, or if I don't I can't, I've got time to kill, or like maybe um, it's just one of those things where I can go back and visit it and turn it into something more. I've done that before, where I got a folder with for when we were doing Passage, the
Yep.
song the Proselygeist
Okay.
was a song that I had riffs kind of in an old folder where I liked like those certain riffs, and I wanted to use them, so I kind of brought them back and kind of arranged them and tried to create something out of it. That was kind of the last minute thing on that album. It wasn't really originally going to be on the album.
Wow. So you're always brainstorming. You're always
Oh yeah,
putting things together, riffs and
yeah.
ideas, huh?
And a lot of times, what I'll do is I'll have the song, we'll have 4 or 5 songs we're working on, and I'll make a CD with those 4 or 5 songs, and then I'll make a mixtape of other bands and new stuff that I haven't heard before, classic bands that I have heard, and old, Black Sabbath or Judas Priest or whatever. I mix it all up, where I listen to kind of everything, so it'll, be a little bit of everything. But a lot of times I drive around and I come up with lyrics, I come up with song titles, and just listen to the song a bunch of times to where if certain riffs, I'll get sick of the riff after a week of listening to it. I need to change that, get rid of that part, and make that part better. So a lot of stuff that I fix is from driving around, because like I said, I go down to my parents a lot. It's like an hour and a half each way. So I'll use that time, even though it's time that you would normally lose just driving. I'll use
Yeah.
that time to work on the music and work on lyrics and those kind of ideas.
Wow. Talk about a gift. I mean, there's people that they grab a guitar or drumsticks and you can't come up with nothing. You're constantly coming up with riffs
Yeah,
and putting things
I try
together.
to
Wow.
I try to be disciplined. There are times when I'm just not set up for it, or it's just not I'm not feeling it. So there are those times. But then other times, like when I came up with those 4 songs, it was just like I was inspired, and all those 4 songs were pretty much written within a 2-day, 3-day period.
There's an interview where Robert Trujillo from Metallica says that whenever Hetfield grabs a guitar, this guy's just spewing out ideas. This stuff's coming out of his mind. All these, everything he plays is like, what is that kind of? So that's got to be a gift. You have that too. That's a talent right there.
I can usually come up if I need to come up with a riff, I can come up with one.
Wow.
And it's discipline. It's just forcing yourself to play. And then, capturing it. Back in the day when we were younger, we didn't have machines to record like that, so we would play a riff, and then the next day we would have to remember the riff from yesterday, and it wouldn't be the same necessarily. It would be a little bit different, and slowly you would make that into something. But we didn't have that luxury when we were younger.
Maybe a cassette player here and there too.
Yeah, you'd have that, but a lot of times you wouldn't be thinking about it.
No.
You just go in the band room and play, and
Wow.
How's that riff go again? Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, all right.
Things change. How the technology is just incredible nowadays. Screams from beneath the surface, Lee.
Right.
What's behind that title? Album drops March 13th for people listening, right?
Right. Yeah. I really kind of came up with this recently, but my kind of idea for it now is that I want you to kind of dig beneath the surface of the album, and kind of and really like give it, not just listen to it one time and think, oh, this sucks, We're, like give it a few, because I understand, people's attention spans are very short these days, and the TikTok generation and all this stuff, they're used to watching 30-second videos and moving on to the next.
Scroll.
I'm guilty of it just like the next guy. I find myself, I'll get locked in an Instagram hole, where I'm like, next thing you know, I've spent an hour fooling around on this stupid Instagram, looking at dog pictures or whatever. But so the idea is to kind of give it, listen to the album a bunch and kind of dig beneath the surface of the album. And I think there's some, there's a lot of layers to the album. And once you dig into it and really, you heard it the first time, but, now maybe the 10th listen, you finally hear something you didn't pick up on the first time. And that's kind of one of the things, I was talking in another interview about how, you go and you buy an album for that, you've heard the song on the radio, so you go and buy the album and you really like that song. But then after listening to that song 10 times or 15 times, all of a sudden you don't like that song anymore. You like this other song instead. That's the killer song.
Yeah.
And, after a month or two, you hate that first song that you listened to. You don't even like it at all anymore,
True.
And the B cut that you listen to, the 10th song or the 9th song or whatever it is that you really didn't even like it the first time you heard it, now all of a sudden that's the best song on the album. How many times does that happen? So, it's just the idea is to kind of dig beneath the surface a little bit.
Some people might be attracted to track number 5 instead of the video single.
For sure, like the video will bring them in, but then, by the time, they don't even like that song anymore. They like this, track 10 or 7 or whatever it is. So. Yeah.
Another Metallica story. I'm a Metallica fan, obviously. The band was supposed to release Don't Trade on Me off the Black Album, supposedly, as a first single. And that's their vote. That's what they wanted. And Bob Rock was like, nope, it's Enter Sandman, right? And they're like, no, you're wrong, Bob. It's Don't Trade on Me. So you never know who likes what. Or
like we were going to do a different song first, actually. And it was going to be one of the main singles, but it was just not going to be first. But Metal Blade suggested doing this one first, and the more I thought about it, it was like, yeah, that's a good idea, and it seemed to make sense. So.
This is your second album with Metal Blade, Lee, if I'm correct.
It's actually our fourth. The way we did it, I have my own label, Conquest Music, and we would release it in Conquest in America, and then used Metal Blade for Europe
Oh,
and
okay.
UK on Rise to Power and Spiritual Apocalypse.
I did not
Those
know
two.
that. Wow.
Yeah, so I've always done my, and now we've just licensed, it's still under Conquest Music. My label kind of handles, like, we got everything together, pay for the studio time, handle, making the videos and do all that. And then we license it to Metal Blade. But,
Wow.
so we kind of do all the work beforehand as far as that goes. And then, it's what it comes down to is ownership of the album. A lot of our contemporaries like Obituary and Deicide, they have no control over their early career, like the early albums that they did, just because the way the record business was, where they make you sign your life away.
That's true.
And so when I formed my label, kind of one of the things was that I wanted to retain ownership. And this way, every so often, the albums revert back to the band, and we can make decisions. Hey, it's working, and we're going to keep going, or hey, maybe it's not working, we're going to do something else. And that way, we're not stuck into a situation where we have no control over what happens with our music.
These are things that people don't know, like regular fans. Ownership of your albums and songs and all that, huh? With the labels.
We're just fortunate that Metal Blade's willing to work with us like that. They could easily just say, hey, no, we're going to go work with another band that will sign over their lives, or whatever, sign,
Wow, that's just that's not right. But well, I guess business is business, I guess.
Yeah, it's business. And, we're just fortunate that, I think we got a track record at this point that people, know we're, that we're going to deliver a good album. And so that I think we're allowed that discretion, so to speak.
Yeah. I just interviewed Chuck Billy from Testament
Cool,
last week, and he was talking about that same stuff. That they just barely got ownership of Souls of Black from that label. 35. They got to wait 35 years. He said.
I can only imagine, with a major label like Atlantic or whatever. I think they were on Atlantic.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine, how the struggle. That, lawyers and all, oh God, I can't imagine.
Yeah. So, well, anyways, thank you for the class. The stuff behind the scenes business stuff that fans don't know.
Right.
So what is the first step in preparing for a tour, Lee? You guys have a big European tour coming up here. What's the first step here? Make sure the visas are intact, or what is the first step here?
Well, yeah, everybody, I have a folder with everybody's passport in it, and I try to keep up, every 2 months, like look over and make sure nobody's expired, because I have had that happen. I actually had it happen twice with the same member, where we show up at the airport and then all of a sudden we got to cancel the show because we can't fly.
Oh,
and, yeah. So, and it was bad enough happening once, but when it happened the second time, it was like, oh man, this is too much.
wow.
Anyway. Yeah, so I try to stay on top of that as far as, getting everybody's passports, making sure everybody's caught up. We're pretty lucky in the fact that, everybody's responsible and stays on top of it themselves. But beyond that, the next thing is working on the set list, deciding what songs we want to play, kind of getting everybody on board with that. We're actually going right now, the last day and a half, last 2 days, and we'll be doing it tomorrow and maybe, till next week. But going over the merchandise that we're going to sell in Europe, and we have to get that going now. We have a printing company over in Europe that handles it, and but we have to have plenty of lead time to get it all filled, to get so they have time to get it all printed. And it's decisions, unfortunately, that we have to make. Well, what we sell last time, and we sold 150 of these shirts. Are we going to be able to? Are they still going to buy them, or did they buy them all? And that we're going to get over there, and they're not going to sell this time because everybody already bought them. There's that theory that we have to work through, and coming up with like the new merch for the new album. Like what designs do we want to do, and that kind of thing. So.
Wow. A lot of things to fix and organize, huh?
Yeah, and
bunch of stuff.
Just business end, and this week's been a little tough. I've been talking. My jaw's hurting from doing so many interviews.
I'll keep it short.
But that's a good thing. I don't mind. It's a good thing that people care about the band enough to even want to talk to us.
Hell yeah, you guys are badass. Of course, you guys. Monstrosity all the way, of course. Hell yeah.
We're happy.
I got this one more question before I let you go, Lee. How do you see the future of metal? Do you see any young bands out there, up and comers, teenagers that might carry the flag?
Definitely. I see it. Somebody asked me in the last interview that I did where I see it, that it wasn't, it's not the heyday that it used to be, but actually it kind of is, because if you look at a lot of the bands, our contemporaries, Obituary, Cannibal Corpse, everybody's still on the rise. They're playing bigger shows than they've ever played. Right. When Cannibal plays here, they played here with Meshuggah not too long ago. They're playing in an arena.
Wow.
So that's everything's getting bigger and bigger. Even for us, as a band, our shows are getting bigger and the crowds are growing. Now with YouTube and streaming, a lot people are exposed to our music easier, and so that's it's a bad thing as far as the the money, maybe as far as selling records. It's harder to sell actual physical vinyls and CDs and stuff. But back in the day, back in 92, 93, 4, and 5, fans would have to go out and buy our record, and they didn't hear us unless they did that. Maybe they got a cassette tape with their buddy and they would exchange it, but it was a lot harder to be exposed as a band, whereas now, anybody can go on Spotify, they can listen to 20 seconds of our band, and they like it or they don't like it, they can move on to the next, just like we were talking about with the whole TikTok thing. And I do the same thing. I'll check, I check out a lot of bands, I'll give them a shot, I'll see on Blabbermouth, XYZ band, whatever, come out with a new song, and I won't even listen to the song. I'll just download it, put it in a folder. And then when I make those mix CDs that I was telling you about, I'll just throw a song on the mix CD, and I won't even know who it is, and I'll listen to it a few times without even knowing who it is. And sometimes it sucks, and I'll just fast forward, and this sucks, whatever. But sometimes I'll find bands where I might have been put off by their band name, but because I'd listened to it without hearing the band name first, maybe, oh, this is actually pretty cool. What was that? Oh, this is that new whatever. Fallujah or something, oh, this is kind of cool, this is different, or this is that new whatever band, there's a lot of, oh, that's that Defeated Sanity, or you know what I mean, where where just things that I might have missed or whatever, just being able to download songs like that from YouTube, they have the 4K YouTube downloader thing, and I'll just download a song, and throw it in a folder and won't even think about it for maybe a month. But then later on, I'll put that on and make a little mixtape, and
it's real easy for people to find music. Yeah,
right,
for sure. Wow,
there's too many bands, there you could argue, but there's a lot of good stuff too. There's good and bad and everything. So
sure.
You just got to dig through it, but that's the beauty of it. Is at least we have the option now. Back then, just think how many times when you were a kid, how many times did you go to the record store and you just bought the album because the cover looked cool?
Yeah,
you had no idea what it. And sometimes you get home and that thing sucks. Get this thing out of here. Or sometimes you'd end up with a gem. You get the Bathory record or the some cool thing that you weren't expecting. And
that really it's very important. The covers are very important.
Yeah,
even to this day. You go to Spotify and you gotta check out your covers too sometimes. Thank you, Lee. Thank you for your time. I'll let you rest. There's a bunch of interviews, and I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, I've been going since noon, man.
Oh wow. Yeah. Get some rest, and we'll see you sometime in Texas, Lee. Thank you.
Take care. Have a good weekend, man.
And that was Lee Harrison for you guys, from the band Monstrosity, from the awesome state of Florida, where many death metal bands come from. And this band, Monstrosity, just dropped an album on March 13th, 2026 by the name of Screams from Beneath the Surface, which I highly recommend. Check it out. Metal Blade Records presents, and we thank Lee for returning to the show to present the band's latest album. As I said, the title Screams from Beneath the Surface. An awesome monster drummer, underrated to say the least. So check that out. Monstrosity, guys. And thank you guys for supporting the podcast over the years. And thank you for downloading, streaming, sharing, blah, blah, blah. On behalf of your friend James from the powerful state of Texas in the US of A on planet Earth. Thank you, and don't forget to keep it metal.
That metal interview.